co-founded by three black women, Alicia Garza, Patricia Callas, and Ophel Chomety. We have to really pay appreciation to them, as because of them, today it has gained a momentum where even a racism would come to an end. Black Lives Matter was started in Twitter with an hashtag known as hashtag Black Lives Matter, which gained momentum in the year 2013 after Zimmerman's acquittal for the murder of Trayvon Martin. And slowly in the year 2014, Black Lives Movement, the Black Lives Matter movement gained momentum, increasing protest by or due to the death of Eric Garner and the murder of Michael Brown and the subsequent consequences that is taking place today. Recently, on the month of May, death of George Floyd and also murder of Breonna Taylor, an accidental shooting where the police claim, but it was not an accidental shooting. Welcome back to Black Lives Matter program hosted by me. I am Sachin, hosting this program so that it may create awareness to the people, so that it may enlighten the people in the world that every human being are one species, that there is no such thing as racism. There is only one thing called the love of all human beings together. That is, we are all equal in front of the law of nature. You may wonder that there is no law of nature, it's just an imaginary law, but it's not an imaginary law nor the human law. It's just how the nature plays with us. Justice is a word which is an end or destruction for all the discrimination in the world, a false discrimination among people, and also it brings the awareness where human rights is implemented. That's why we all pledge ourselves to justice so that justice may be served to us, so that we may be treated as as an equal member of this planet. Previously, we have seen how an early human being known as a species called Homo sapiens, transformed into an evolved human being as a modern species that you are and I am to this world. Yes, it may be interesting that they have migrated to different places and evolved themselves and follow different type of tradition and culture, but they still do not know that we are all one human being. We have also seen in the previous episode that there was no such thing as racism except the superiority over the clan, that who should rule that land, who should own the land. Unless it was turned into the greediness and the egoist mind of the people in the world, as we witness today. Corruption in politics, inequality before law, where there is no justice served to the rightful person, and so on. There is many other things which is happening in the world which is hidden from us, which is hidden from the common people. But there is nothing that we as the common people can do, but we can do only one thing. We should be united together and fight for justice, not in terms of violence, but in terms of peaceful protest. 19th century, where slavery took place, where Millions of people were adopted as a servant to the family so that the wise men may live happily and the poor man live sad. That's what we have seen in the previous episode at how racism started and why racism started and what is the main reason behind the works of this racism. We have also seen through many studies of the racism. Today, in this episode, we are going to witness our special guest. I've called upon two special guests to this programs and they will tell you how they feel about racism as we have talked about how do they feel about racism. Will there be any change in the upcoming future? Will there be any probability, a chance where there will be no such thing as racism in the upcoming future? For that, I'm welcoming our first special guest, Max, who is a musician and a producer. And the link is down below where you can follow up him in social media and you may know him through social media. But now I will witness you and I'm going to invite Max, a musician and a producer, to this program. We're coming back to Black Lives Matter episode 2. As we have seen that ongoing protest is still going on today about the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and many others who have been lost their lives unwillingly due to cruelty. So, what do you say about that? I mean, why people really hate black people?
Um, I know. I mean, it's really it's been a problem in the U.S. forever, and it really dates back to slavery, obviously, and then the white Europeans coming over wanting to have control, and then making black people forced into slave labor, and that's what it comes back to. So honestly, it's as if the U.S. has always been kind of cursed, but um, you know I don't know what it's like to be black, obviously, in the experience of being black, and it's much different from being white. Um, but really, in school, we learned about the civil rights movement, which happened in the '60s, and that was like a huge, that was when Martin Luther King was, around and was fighting really hard for black rights, and a lot of other civil rights leaders. We always learn about that, and then I'd always kind of thought that stuff was better, and that things were better among, races in the U.S. And I didn't, I guess I didn't really, because I come from like a pretty liberal area, like where it's pretty accepting generally. Like there is not much racism that I've seen, at least, and I haven't experienced much of it myself. So I kind of thought things were okay. But then this whole the death of there have been deaths throughout my lifetime, from police violence or just from like just from exactly like you were saying, cruelty. But I hadn't really like noticed it as a big issue until the death of George Floyd, and a lot of people were speaking up about it. And then all the events that were around that, like the death of Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and so many others, Elijah Hill, I think, and Elijah McCain. And I was just like, all of a sudden, it was a much bigger issue, even though honestly it had been around the whole time, but I was learning a lot about it. And then I think I started understanding a lot of things that I hadn't before. So I'm thankful for that experience. But really, I mean, like, so the question was like, what do I think about it?
We have come across the word
um,
racism, a word that created Holocaust
mm,
and American genocide. But till today, that still exists. I mean, we have seen the history that
hmm
the first men have been stepped out in Africa, so they have immigrated and settled there. But still, people do it today. I mean, why do they still it? It's really hard to believe it.
it's so like frustrating because sorry.
I mean, we are all equal. I mean, we are all one human race, but people, there are some who are feel jealous about them that they should not be in superior position.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, with racism, it's incredible because I don't think anyone is born racist. I don't think that like I don't think that anyone is born and immediately they're like, hating someone else or jealous of someone else or whatever. It all comes from how you're raised, and even if you're raised with, good parents and a good family who's not racist, like I don't think my family's racist. We're very open-minded in my opinion, but like you still the society general society in America and in the world, but mostly in America, will sometimes tell you differently based on how you learn things in school or in the history books or seeing things in public or like almost like black people living in different areas than white people and having being like generally having higher poverty rates and all the stuff. You don't understand why until you're older, and you realize that this is just because of the all the inequalities in the US and the systemic racism. But at first, like I feel like these things are just hammered into everyone's brain by just what they see every day. Racism, it really shouldn't exist. It was invented basically. It's not a natural phenomenon, but it's so deeply ingrained into society that it feels like it has become one. So I mean, what do I think about it? I think it's terrible, and I'd love for it to stop, obviously. And I think the best we can do is educate each other and try to change people's minds to be less racist and less biased. I think there could be a future of without racism. Maybe in hundreds of years if we continue to fight against it and fight for total justice. But it's hard when there are people who will be racist no matter what, who are just completely racist, like people like organizations like the KKK in the U.S. who are like really the most cruel of all, of basically of anyone. It's like it's almost like a neo-Nazi movement of trying to create a genocide, and the white power movement and such. Like we can't abolish racism without changing their minds or having them die off basically, because there are people like that who will never change their minds, which is why we need to fight so hard to change them, to really about try to get rid of racism.
Okay. Well, that was really, I mean, it was really, really motivational.
Thank you.
Okay, now I have heard in the news that the US president has deployed federal troops, even though they are demonstrating in terms of peace. I mean, they're doing peace movements, but how do you feel that why president has been deployed federal troops?
Why has he done it? Well, I think a large part of it is that I don't think he wants the movements to be happening. I don't think he's supportive of the Black Lives Matter movement. I think he's actually very much against it. He was trying to declare it like a terrorist organization, which I think is ridiculous. I think I think he was scared of it. I don't think he wanted to. I think he was scared of people uniting together for a certain cause, and he saw it as very powerful, and he wanted to try to knock it down. Oren and I actually live in D.C. in the capital. Maybe like 5 miles from Trump, very close by. So we see all this stuff happen every day, and I've gone biking in downtown, and I've seen tanks and fully equipped military people with big guns. It's frightening for peaceful protesters for the most part. When it comes down to it, these people they're peaceful. They're just trying to unite for a cause. And there was a period of rioting, but even then, that wasn't they weren't injuring people. That was just trying to destroy property to like put across the message. It wasn't just to be lunatics. It was trying to show something. But of course, a lot of Trump took that personally maybe, or saw it as a huge threat and wanted to deploy military action. So I think it was ridiculous.
Well, I have saw a national study which say that more than 90,000 schools found that black children only make up only 18% of preschoolers, and 42% of them have been suspended. Well, it is said in UNICEF and UNICEF that all children should be educated, that everybody should be equally treated and should be educated so that they may come up to the lives and join some companies or do some job. But here it is saying that they have been regulated or simply suspended for some silly reasons. So, what do you say about that?
Oh, I actually didn't know about that, to be honest. I didn't know about those numbers. I mean, if it's true, obviously, I think it's terrible and it's probably unjust. It's probably due to, an unjust, principle or, just in general, the system being prejudiced. But I'm not sure. I actually didn't know about that. So, yeah, I hope that's an okay answer.
So, well, we have talked about that racism, that it will never end, I think so. But what happens if we create awareness to the people? So, will it change the people's mind that all are equal, all are one human race?
You said if we create a what? Sorry.
But there are some people who really regret this awareness program that no, I will not listen to you, and we don't like him.
Oh,
We really hate him. I mean, there are some cruel members in the world. I mean, the world is divided into two parts, like good or bad, like how I think, but they really regret it. I mean, I don't like this Black Lives Matter, what you're creating. So I really hate this. I mean, why should I like them or treat them as we are one? They are different, we are different. Why this still the word hate exists till today? I mean, there may be hate in competition, in school, colleges, or in work or sports, but this word hate really still exists in between white people and black people, but they don't understand that we are all one human race.
yeah. I mean, I know. It's hard to. It's almost like kind of mind-boggling how people don't understand that. I think, but it's also more than that. I mean, it's often like the U.S. has many races. I think the Latino population is about in the 20 or 30%, like 28% or so, pretty high. There's the Native American Indian population who is really here before anyone else. Asian American and just Asian in general. Like there are really a lot of factors, and there's a lot of racism all around. Of course, the largest one, the most present kind of form of racism is probably I guess white on black. That's really the reason for the Black Lives Matter movement. But yeah, I mean I think it's terribly sad. I really like that's why I'm trying to, as with everyone else, I'm trying to fight towards like change, and I'm really trying to make sure that I'm as much anti-racist as I can be, so that I can try to prevent, people who are younger than me or, my family, like older or whatever, from, you know, being racist or seeing biases or that kind of thing, which I think everyone should be doing who understands that this is obviously a huge deal.
So, what is the situation there about justice for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and many others? I mean, is there any changes for that police officer who has been fired from his duty and is in prison? I think so. So, what did they done to him? Like, he have choked
I mean,
David
I'm
Floyd
not.
for 8 minutes, and so that's so unnatural. So, is it
Yeah.
to be done same to him like that, or another punishment for him?
Um. Well, to be honest, I think so. I think that what's been done is that a lot of people have protested. A lot of petitions have been signed, either independent or government petitions to try to create change. I know that the government has started a petition for Breonna Taylor, and I think they also did one for George Floyd. And people have donated a lot of money, like a lot of people. But honestly, I still think there has not been enough done
Yeah, yeah,
to the cops who killed Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and all and other victims, of course. Breonna Taylor, I mean, I think that her the cops who killed her are all still free, which is absolutely ridiculous. I'm pretty sure that Derek Chauvin, the guy who choked George Floyd, was arrested and fired, but some of them were only fired, some were not fired. And
Yeah.
the worst part is that after this happened, none of them were fired. Like, you know, it took millions of people uniting together and donating and fighting for just a few people to be arrested for a terrible crime that they should have been arrested for in the first place. So that says something. So I think that honestly, not enough has been done towards the actual cops. But I think what has been done a lot more is creating a lot of support for the movement, and a lot of people's minds have been changed or they've learned a lot. Like for me, I'm obviously not enough has been done not enough has been done for the death of to justify not justify but like to arrest the cops and everything who killed them. But I feel like for me and a lot of people that I know, I've learned a lot about and I've learned a lot about why and how and a lot of the reasons for why this is happening and how I can help make a change. So I think that's where the movement has been really effective so far in educating people and changing people's minds. But I still think that more needs to be done on the government side and on the the policy side.
Well, may I also know what happened to the boy who was beaten up to death in that recent post you have posted in your story? I mean, I don't know his name, but I have seen that there were 8 members who have choked him to death in that
Mm.
school. What did they done to him? I mean, is there any justice for him? Did they fire him or they gave any punishment for
Oh,
him?
yeah.
That was really, really illegal. I mean, a 16-year-old
I heard
teenager
about that.
brutally dead.
No, so sad. I don't know enough about that case. I know that I think what happened is he threw his sandwich, and then someone got really mad. I don't remember what happened, but I don't know enough about that case to know what's happened or who's if justice has been served. But I'm guessing not enough or not yet. So I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. But that was totally horrible.
So, what will be your message to the people who are viewing this meeting between me and you? That how should they feel about Black Lives Matter? I mean, all lives matter, and even Black lives also matter. So, what is your message to them, to the younger generation to
Um,
come, and
I
more
think
generation to come?
uh, well, I was gonna say, you said all lives matter. I don't think you meant like all lives matter in the way that in the U.S. all lives matter is not a good thing really. Like I agree with all lives matter. They do, but in the U.S. sometimes all lives matter is used as a phrase to like denote Black Lives Matter and say that and just like take the focus away from that. But I know you didn't mean that. I'm just clarifying it. I think my message is to try to learn as much as you can, whether it's through talking to people, watching, people like, you know, really learn from Black people because that's who understands all of this the most, and they're the ones who are this is affecting the most, obviously, because this is their life. So learn from them, whether it's reading books that people Black authors have written, or listening to music that like political music that Black artists have made, watching the news, learning from them, reading things. It really all comes down to learning from them and then listening to them and their stories and their viewpoints, and then applying that to yourself as you join the Black Lives Matter movement and you support it. So really hearing the perspectives of others, keeping an open mind, and fighting for what's right, and then and that's for like if you're not in the policy, if you're not in the government side. And if you're in the government side, if you want to get into politics, I think it's really important to like listen to the people and to what they want, and not just what the higher ups want. Like listen to, as a politician, you're supposed to be a public servant. That's your job. So a lot of people now who are politicians are not. They're just serving the big businesses, or they're serving their, the other, higher ups in the government. You should be serving the people and what they want. And it's clear that a lot of people want change and they want to see more equality. So that's my message, I guess.
Okay. So, if you look back to the probability chances that in coming future, if this really helps the people that all lives matter, I mean, all are equal, we are all one human race, what will you think? How it will be the future? I mean, all are.
Wait, sorry. Can you repeat the question?
In coming generation, if it is 2050 or 2040, the generation and technology will all change, and this movement is still going on. What happens if all loving each other? All are equal in one human race. How it will be that?
How would it be? I mean,
I
I
mean,
think that would be amazing. I think
will it be a
if that
change
was the
in
case, I
people?
think yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know about I don't even know if there needs to be a change in people, but a change in the way things are done. Like I mean, I think a future where there was just equality would of course be incredible. I'm not sure how likely it is that soon, but I hope it is that likely that soon because I think what we would see is more minorities in government positions, so less like white men, more women of course as well. We would see, I think, we would see less neighborhoods of just black people and just white people, more mixing of people together, and you know, uh, and I think we would see like less. Well, obviously, if it was equality, then less racism and less hate, hate crimes. And I mean, I think it takes a lot to have a big change like that in the institution in the government side, but I really would love to see that, and I'd love to see more like black leaders, being elected into in different political positions, and more Latino leaders, and more Asian leaders, and Native American, and really like more representation from the people who are not being listened to in the U.S. So that's what I'd love to see, and I think that's how it could be in that case, which would be amazing.
So this month, August, is the way of remembering all the members of the African who have fought for their civil rights to abolish slavery. For example, if we take Nelson Mandela and John Lewis, how do you feel that? I mean, this August month is remembering those who have fought for the civil rights and something they have achieved. So, what will be your message about this August month?
Oh, I mean, obviously, like what they've done is incredible, and they should be honored for all their work and for their bravery, because it's not easy to do that, and it's really difficult to stand up for something and put your life in danger every day to fight for what you think is right. So, really, a huge amount of respect to them.
Thank you, Max, for accepting the invitation and participating in our program Black Lives Matter. It was really motivational, emotional, and I am obvious that it may or it will create awareness among the people in the world. It will really enlighten the world. Thank you, Max, for joining this program. It was an honor and my pleasure to meet you and for you to speak up against racism where there will be no racism in the world. As we have said, that it is mostly seen in America, but I hope that it will not be seen in America in the coming future. Guys, now we have seen how Max has felt about racism, which is rolling all over the world, not only all over the world, even in America and also in other parts of the world. So, guys, now I'm going to welcome and invite our second special guest to this program, Caroline, a well known pop singer to the world who resides in USA. I will drop down the link below, the social media link below, where you may come close and know more about her through a social media account, and also you may subscribe a channel too. We'll talk about how does she feels about racism. So coming back to this show, my first question will be that we have seen that in the world there is no such word as racism, but people say that like they really hate or ill-treat them. Why does this word racism exist? How do you feel about that? Is this like
I don't
bullying
know.
others, or is that a thing showing off their superiority?
this is good. But mainly, I think the goal should be equality for everybody, mainly. And I think a lot of the reason of why racism exists is just kind of a generational thing, unfortunately, just from the history of it. But hopefully, we can move forward and kind of get rid of the generational curse and just be a more progressive, open, loving generation.
Well, I have seen in the research that scientists believe that human cannot be divided in terms of biological groups. I mean, like they are
Perfect.
homogeneously superior, and they also speak in those times. Scientists believe that, but there's some in the world who say that people can be divided in terms of races or in segregation of races. So my
Mm-hmm.
question is, there are people who reject them. Like they ask them, where are you from? Which country are you from? Or whose clan? What is the name of your clan? Are you a tribal people? Are you a white people? Or you a black people? Or you are superior? Or you are rich or poor? But if they need help, they make them as a servant. Like in other words, I can say as a slaves. I mean, this is a illegal thing to make them as a slaves.
That's
So,
true.
how do you feel about that? I mean, what will be a suggestion that
I mean,
is
it's so wrong and so uncool. I really believe in equality and mainly inclusivity, and we're so much more powerful together. And it's always such a beautiful thing when you see people from different cultures coming together and being friends, and people from different backgrounds and being able to learn from each other. And with that segregation, then you don't have that, and that's the best part of the world.
another question I have is when this word racism strikes in some of the people, there are some who don't come forward to help them. I mean, we have seen that there is still no justice done to them. Like George Floyd, who was dead, who was choked by those policemen for 8 minutes, and Breonna Taylor, who was killed. In those, in their terms, they say that it's an accident, but in our ways, it's not an accident. But my question is, when they heard this word racism, they don't come forward to help them. Like there are some who feel that fear that they will be caught up or they will be brutally killed if they help them. But there are some who doesn't really want to help them. I mean, why
Right.
is like that? That they don't want to help them? No, they come forward to seek justice for them. There are only some members in the world who do like that.
Right. I think it's a lot of people just being selfish or wanting to keep their privilege and just thinking that if other people have equal rights, then maybe they're not better anymore and they want to be superior. I think it's like that. But it's so messed up and so not cool. Like if we're all equal, that's a good thing. And if there's injustice, we should speak out and try to be on equal playing fields.
During my childhood, I came up with an ideology that why does people hate each other? I mean, we are all equal in terms of nature, that we are one human species, but there are some who really hate others. Like today, we have seen that men ill-treat women, brother hates brother, sister hates her sister. I mean, all this hate comes up. I mean, why does this hate exist? I mean, this hate really supports the word racism.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a bummer. I wish it didn't. I guess it's another part of human nature. It's like there's good and there's evil. And unfortunately, the evil exists, but hopefully the good will override it and take over.
And finally, my last question will be, what will be a message to the youth generation? What will be a message to the world?
I mean, just really support inclusivity. I know I say inclusivity all the time, but it's like my favorite word. It's the best word ever because it's just about being inclusive of everybody and treating everybody as an equal because everybody has rights and we're all human and we should all be respected and loved. So just love on people, and give people the benefit of the doubt.
We have also seen that in those days, human rights was implemented to abolish slavery, and also slavery was abolished. But today, human trafficking exists, and now the modern concept racism exists.
hmm Yeah, it's definitely a bummer because I think sometimes people think we've moved so far away from that, but we really haven't because it still goes on, but just in modern ways.
Thank you, Carolyn, for accepting and participating in this event, in this show, Black Lives Matter Episode 2. It was a pleasure and an honor to meet you, and also it was really motivational and emotional, just as how does Max feels about racism. Similarly, you two felt same, and you two also felt that it is not a mistake of the people, but it's really the mistake of us. I mean, the feeling of how the people feel. So thank you, Caroline, for participating in this event. Now we have witnessed how our two great celebrities, two musicians in the world, have felt so bad about racism. It is a really bad feeling. Yes, it is a bad feeling that how this world is evolving with so much of hate, greed, ego, and so on. I think their message may spread to all of you who are watching this video and has to share it to everybody in the world so that it may enlighten the world that there is no such thing as racism. This program was only started that there should be no hate to one another, that Black Lives Matter and also all lives matter, that there should be no hate, no greed, and no ego. So I thank those musicians who took part in this show, who took part in this episode so that it may enlighten the world. Now I'm going to tell you about few words, not so much, just a little bit of feeling of how do I feel about racism. If I come across this word racism, it is really an aggressive word, a word which creates hate among the people. Yes, it is really an hating word to the world. Yes, it is a word called as hate. If we cooperate with it, we will really fall off to the bias in terms of how do we see that there is hate in the world, corruption in politics, and so on and so on, unless the people change themselves. So I have seen so many videos, so many awareness videos, so many news, so many protests going on in and around the world that let all lives be mattered. Let black lives be mattered and also other lives be mattered. Let every be an equal member, an equal human being in the world. Let there be no such thing as racism, no such thing as greed, no such thing as ego in the world. Let there be an equal treatment to all of you guys. I know it may take many generations or many centuries to change the world unless we, the people, create awareness to the people such that it may inspire and enlighten the youth generation and also the upcoming future of the world. We have also seen how does the climate change protest is going on. That yes, there is a climate change in the world, global warming, greenhouse effect, and so on and so on. Polar ice caps are melting down in Antarctica. Glaciers are melting down in North and South Pole. The sea levels are rising up. The spill of oil in the Indian Ocean, which I've got in recently. This is really, really an awkward thing where there was so much of changes in climate. Similarly, there is also changes in our human generation. Human trafficking, slavery, racism, greed, hate, ego, social discrimination, racial discrimination, and so on is still taking place. Even though there is an abolishment of slavery, implementation of human rights, and also charges if anybody commits a murder or a crime against the people, anybody who treats another as an unequal member of this world, they have been treated unequal, but there is no such action taking place in the world. So it is our duty to form an unity. I mean, we should all be united together, like just how our hand works together, just like that, we should all be united together. I hope this video helps and inspires the people in the coming generation and the upcoming future of the world. Thank you guys for watching this video. This is the second episode of Black Lives Matter. And I also assure you, please follow two musicians who have come forward and expressed their support to this show. I'm really thankful for them as they have expressed their support to this show. Thank you, Max and Caroline, for taking part in this show. It was really motivational and emotional, and also it will inspire the world. I also drop down some of the links where you can follow them, where you can know more about them. And also you can listen up to the music which they have produced. And also you may follow up me on my social account, in social media. I will also drop down that link. You may follow me up in Instagram, Facebook, and also on Twitter, but it is still in progress. And let me give you a spoiler alert. It will be a spoiler alert to you that episode 3 will be the final episode of Black Lives Matter, where this show will be closed after episode 3. It will be continued when the season 2 will start if this video is promoted or inspires many people in the world. Thank you for watching this show. And I also need to tell many things, but it is really unable in this episode 2, but it will be continued in episode 3. And the spoiler alert of episode 3 is it will be released on September month, where the date is still unannounced, but the production is still going on for that. I hope you will also enjoy episode 3, which will be the final episode. And also my own website has been developing, so I hope it may also reach people if I send those video and website link of my own official link, so that it may hit the people with inspiration, which will be motivational to them also. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you like it, comment it, and share it as much as possible to many people in the world, such that it may inspire the people in the world where there is no such thing as racism. There is no such thing as racial discrimination going in and around the world. Thank you guys for watching this video. Have a nice day.